There is a story in the Talmud about 3 different men who died and gone to heaven, and they were lined up one by one waiting to be interviewed before they could get in. And so first guy was asked, "Did you make time in your life to study Torah?" And he said, "I was so poor that I was spending my whole life trying to make a living, and I never had time to study Torah." And the angel said to him, "Well, you couldn't have been poorer than Hillel. He had nothing, and he spent all his time studying Torah." Next guy comes and he says, "How about you? Did you make time to study Torah?" He said, "I was so rich that I was always dealing with my business, and I didn't have time to study Torah." And they pointed out that there was this one rabbi in Talmudic times who was the richest landowner around, and he spent all his time studying Torah. The third guy comes, "Did you make time to study Torah?" He said, "The women really love me, and I was busy." And he said, "Well, you couldn't have been any busier than King Solomon. He had hundreds of wives, and he had plenty of time to study Torah." I thought about this Talmud when I thought about this time last year, because at this moment last year, Karen Wilner, last year's recipient of the Talmud Torah Prize, said to everyone, "If I can do it, then you can do it." And she was right. Anyone who puts their mind to studying Torah, to being committed, can live a life worthy of Torah, and even a life worthy of this very special moment. So this year, as we present the 77 edition of our Talmud Torah Award, it is my pleasure now to invite last year's winner, Karen Wilner. You didn't think I remembered that? It's good enough.
Shabbat Shalom. Well, last year at this time, I stood here and was honored as the 2016 Talmud Torah Award, which was really a very important and special thing in my life. And it is also a very special thing that I'm able to introduce to you a man who needs no introduction, Joe Jacoby, as the 2017th honoree of the Talmud Torah Award. Will you come up, Joe? Joe has studied and is a light. He's truly a light, and his passion for studying Torah is evident at every Torah class or Torah study with his thoughtful commentary. He has a passion for this, and if you'll, hi.
Hi, Karen.
So anyway, getting back to the formal part of this, which I'm not the best at, but Joe has been a member of Temple Beth Am for 35 years. And in that time, he's not only served in a leadership capacity as an active board member and as Temple president, but he's been socially active with Torah Study, Beth Am Basketball, and Beth Am Day School. At your seats, you will see an entire list of the activities and the wonderful contributions that Joe has made to our community and to the world at large, to see how Joe has taken his study into everyday life. And he gives so much of himself to make our community and the world a better place. So I'd like to turn this over to Joe now. And
Mazel tov to you.
Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom. Little housekeeping detail here. To my good friends that I play golf with and hang out with, there's no CE credit tonight. To the Behar family, Mazal Tov. Gabriella, good luck tomorrow. And I'll say to you what I said to many bar and bat mitzvah, stay close and you'll never get lost. To be conscious that you are ignorant is a great step to knowledge. Benjamin Disraeli. Thank you. You know, you're like my wife and my daughters. It's amazing. My religious journey began right here at Temple Beth Am, and I mean that quite literally, right here. You may be familiar with the saying, what goes around comes around, and this adage is especially applicable tonight. Here we sit in the exact location of the old Beth Am Youth Lounge, where I stumbled into my first Torah study 25 plus years ago. The room was organized with rickety old tables and child-sized chairs in the shape of a horseshoe, with no trace of delicious bagels or several varieties of coffee and tea. Torah studies just come a long way since then. There I sat among some of the most dedicated pupils I've ever had the pleasure of studying with. My old friend and past president, Dr. Bill Silver, is here this evening. He loaned me his spare chumash that day. I didn't have one. The brilliant Dr. Mort Axler of blessed memory. Dr. Pete Sobel, whose implementation of the triennial cycle is something we still use here to this day. And our first ever Talmud Torah Award recipient, Dr. Michael Margulies. Though my fellow scholars made our study enjoyable, it was our incredible moderator, Rabbi Morris Kipper, who made it truly memorable. He stood in the middle of the horseshoe-shaped tables, delivering his weekly drosh with such passion and emotion, asking questions and encouraging each of us to participate in some small way. Maury welcomed me with open arms and drew me in with his questions and wit. While also giving me the opportunity to contribute with my own interpretations. In return, I welcomed him into my life as my teacher of Torah and looked forward to class on Shabbat. We turned the scroll week to week without a hiccup until one Shabbat when we began to discuss Toldot, the portion that describes the theft of a birthright and the significant deception that preceded it. Ever the observant leader, Rabbi Kipper immediately noticed my naivete, disbelief, and discomfort as I tried to wrap my head around these very serious matters. I wondered, how could our matriarch concoct such an elaborate scheme? And how could our patriarch steal something so significant? Doesn't our Torah have prohibitions against these behaviors? Rabbi Kipper launched into a Devar Torah, or what I now refer to as a lesson for the ages, that I knew was given entirely for my benefit, as if he knew he had to make a great argument, or else he might risk losing a student. For him, it seemed there was so much at stake, which is probably why his Devar lasted the entire class. His sermon helped me understand the complexities of our ancestors and how they, like ourselves, were imperfect. Like us, they needed boundaries to distinguish right and wrong in the world we live in today, which helps define the ultimate meaning and satisfaction in life. And with only those boundaries does one have the ability to develop and grow as a person. Torah study has enriched my life in so many ways, but most importantly, it has helped me grow and develop my Jewish identity. I believe we can all similarly benefit from weekly study if we approach it as I first did, with curiosity, an open heart, and willingness to be a lifelong learner. This week, we have a double portion, Akremot Kedoshim, which discusses the Holiness Code, a series of laws that describe what is required to be holy, including many important ethical precepts. The importance of its contents is highlighted by the opening words in which Moses instructed the is instructed how to convey this code to the Israelites. It reads, Daber el adat b'nei Yisrael. Daber el kol adat b'nei Yisrael, which translates to speak to the entire house of the children of Israel, so that Moses' words would not be lost in the translation, and so there would be no confusion about God's words to the masses. Kedoshim tihiyu, you must be holy. You see, holiness is not a matter of choice. It's something essential and indispensable. What's surprising to me is this portion's emphasis on human relationships. The Torah makes it clear that holiness cannot be achieved through worship alone. It must be embedded in societal contact, one all-encompassing, inclusive mitzvah between God and man. If the message of this portion is that observing mitzvot is a direct reflection of our relationship with God, it seems obvious that we should always strive to treat each other with respect and kindness. But ultimately, Kedoshim teaches us that when it comes to interpersonal relationships, Judaism sweats the small stuff. Our tradition recognizes that holy community is built brick by brick, act by act, good deed by good deed. When we in turn come to recognize that all our actions, both great and small, towards our fellow mortals are equally momentous, we will have begun to respond to the divine imperative, you must be holy. We recently had the privilege to participate in a Seder at our family friends, in which I was called upon to give a drash about the wicked son. Luckily, I was armed with a lesson that I had ripped off with permission from Rabbi Barris about chametz in your soul and the importance of ritual practice for learning and to continue from generation to generation. Upon conclusion of the Seder, the participants that had lots of questions like, what should we do? And what does it mean to be holy? Rambam was consistently perplexed by this concept of holiness and had a few questions of his own, like what constitutes holy behavior? And how are we to understand and meet the standards for holiness, and conversely, unholiness? For him, holiness encompassed a wide range of behaviors which are neither explicitly prescribed nor prohibited by the Torah. Rambam insisted that the Torah could not conceivably anticipate every human ethical or moral challenge, but still commanded us to be holy. Rambam did not believe holiness was synonymous with sainthood. He believed that we are holy to the extent that we excel in the realms of ethics and morality. Kedoshim connects us with God and one another in the context of building moral and spiritual community. Judaism is rooted in the love of people. No wonder then Kedoshim has at its heart, V'ahavta l'recha kamoka, love your neighbor as yourself. Like our ancestors, no one is perfect. We are all a work in progress, and there are specific times and places where God deals with us concerning our habits and our dispositions. Fortunately, here at Beth Am, our amazing clergy can help guide us along a spiritual path that will lead us to holiness. I'm both honored and humbled to receive the 2017 Talmud Torah Award and grateful for the opportunity to study with such wonderful people. The faces may have changed since my first serious study, but 25 years later, I still look forward to learning new ideas and discussing new interpretations of Torah portions that I've read many times over. I'd like to thank my family, Stephanie, Travis, and Flora, Julie and Michael, my cousin Richard Sepler for his sage advice and generosity, and lastly, I'd like to recognize a very special person in my life, Shelley May, my Aisha Kyle, woman of valor. I appreciate your unconditional love and support now and forever. Thank you very much for this award. I'm truly humbled and honored. Shabbat Shalom.